Wow. Everybody all up in arms about tubes. Vacuum tubes, that is. Tube shortages, Okay, here's a brief rundown if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. Here recently, just last week, as a result of the conflict in Ukraine with Russia, Electro-Harmonics sent out an announcement to the world that they are not going to be importing tubes, basically shutting down their tube factory in Russia. Now, there are 3 factories in the world that manufacture tubes. There's one in Russia. There's another one in China, which is also currently shut down due to a fire. And the third one is located in Slovakia. That's the one that produces the JJ tubes. So we're down to one factory in the world that produces vacuum tubes. So while I am not an economist, I cannot honestly predict when tube production is going to ramp back up again, if it ever does. What I can tell you is, if it doesn't, for God's sake, stop panicking. This is turning into the guitar player's toilet paper of 2020. Seriously. Everybody is panicking. They're buying up tubes left and right. All of a sudden afraid they're never going to be able to get them again. I don't understand. Not a bad idea to have some tubes laying around in case you need them. But realistically, tubes last a long time. I'm going to refer to Glenn Fricker's video last year when he basically proved to everybody that the belief from guitar players that tubes have a huge impact on an amplifier's tone is nothing but a myth. I'll post the link up here in the whichever corner the card shows up. So check that out, number one. Number two, there's also this misconception that tubes only last for a year or two. Also total bullshit. I own, 12, 13, 14, 15 tube amps, something like that. You know how long it's been since I've retubed any of them? Years. And the last time I retubed one was one of my old Panama heads. The only reason I retubed that one is because it arrived with a broken tube inside of it, and I had to replace that one. So I decided while I was at it, I would go ahead and replace the rest of the preamp tubes. That's it. Prior to that, I haven't retubed an amp in I don't know how many years, and they all still sound just fine. Vacuum tubes have a very, very long life in them, and they don't need to be replaced every year and a half, even if you play that amplifier a lot. Vacuum tubes have a very, very long life in them. My trusty old Laney IRT Studio, right here. I use that amplifier to demo, just about any time I do a pedal demo these days, it's through that amplifier. Just to give you guys an idea how much I use it. It gets used a lot. And, the need to retube it, I've never retubed it, in all the years that I've owned it now, and I bought it used. Now, I will say that, again, we don't know what the future of vacuum tubes is going to be. So if you have tube amps, you might want to consider hanging on to them, because they might suddenly become a lot more valuable if vacuum tubes do prove to be a lot harder to get a hold of for years to come. Now, one thing that I have also seen a lot of other people, complain about is Americans anyway. And this is, I'm not trying to get into any politics here at all, but some people say that this could be easily resolved if we manufactured tubes here in the U.S. Well, that is completely false. I was having a conversation with my friend David from the Practical Guitars this morning about this, and he who has done extensive research on this and is very, very knowledgeable on the topic. He's got a lot more knowledge on the economics of it than I do. But what he told me is that producing tubes is actually extremely environmentally unfriendly. very harmful to the environment. And that's also the same reason the tubes are not manufactured in Mexico either, because Mexico's environmental environmental policies, environmental restrictions prevent anybody from making tubes in Mexico. Ours are, here in the U.S., same problem. We just cannot manufacture tubes in the U.S. So it is just way too harmful to the environment. It just doesn't make sense. So, we're basically, we have no choice but to ride this out and wait for either this conflict between Russia and Ukraine to settle down, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, I don't think. At least it certainly doesn't look like it. And even if it does, it's going to, the entire world is currently turning against Putin right now. So, I don't anticipate that flipping around anytime soon. It's going to take a lot longer to repair than it's taken to cut them off from the rest of the world. As for we do have hope for the factory in China that one day it gets back up and running and starts producing tubes again. But again, who knows when that's going to be. So that leaves us with the factory in Slovakia, which is already pretty stretched out. So if you must start stocking up on tubes, because you think that everything that I'm saying here is complete bullshit, and you need to have a pile of tubes at the ready to run all of your amps. I would suggest, once the major retailers are all sold out, which is probably going to be pretty close, if not there already. I'm going to make a plug here for Eurotubes.com, who are a big JJ dealer. Matter of fact, that's all they deal in is JJ tubes, and they sell them at a very fair price, and they're good tubes. I've always used JJs. I've always liked them. They've never had any. They never give me any trouble. They're reliable, and like I said, they're reliable. They're affordable. They get the job done. As far as how the amp sounds, that's all determined in how the amp is biased, how hot or cold the amp is biased in relation to the tubes that are in it. So, which is also why the idea that vacuum tubes make guitar amps sound better or worse is absolutely nothing but a myth. So yeah, vacuum tubes right now suddenly equals toilet paper for guitar players. Adios.